Okay, guys, so there's been a wine video making the rounds on socials these past couple of weeks that we just cannot ignore, but I don't really know how to talk about it without sounding like we're cyberbullying.
Yeah, I know which one you're talking about. It's one of those videos that makes it on the internet that is inadvertently hilarious, like kind of like so bad you can't look away or so interesting you can't look away. And this one, oh man, it has wine, it has food pairing, it has je ne sais pas.
Guys, what are you talking about? Send me the link stat, please.
Okay, Catherine, check this out. Through the magic of audio editing, we can get your reactions immediately. Listeners, we are now watching a video from at Charles Loescher, that's Loescher on Instagram. And I'm just going to go ahead and call him Pepperoni Guy.
Okay, so I've been watching this. I'm seeing this gentleman. He's holding some, can I say this, flaccid pepperoni up? And he's kind of like dropping it into his mouth like an ancient Roman god or maybe like one of those seals being fed at SeaWorld. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yes, yeah.
And the alarming thing is how serious and earnest this guy is. There is, like, nothing ironic in his delivery. He does have a certain look to him as well. Oh boy, wow. This is hard to watch.
Yeah, the internet is full of trolls, but I don't think this guy's a troll. I think he's just being himself. And the only troll like thing about him might be the chewing.
But we need to talk about the dialogue too. He's talking about learning to appreciate wine by chewing up pepperoni and then sipping red wine. I can't while the grease come out of my cheeks and down my throat. I can't do his accent. It's
Okay.
he's from deep in New Orleans and I can't pull it off.
I love feeling the grease come out of my cheeks and down my throat. Excellent way to drink wine and learn how to drink wine.
Okay, so that's a different way to describe wine pairing. It's new and different to me, but,
Okay, but we have to forget the dialogue. Can we just talk about the chewing sounds, like the chomping and smacking? It's like the opposite of ASMR. It's like a horror film soundtrack.
I chew it up really well. Then I sip my red wine. Way around my mouth.
Well, as we record, this video has about 8,300 likes and some of the most hilarious comments I have ever read. So this guy's doing something right, troll or no troll.
Okay, he is doing something right, but the ice cubes. Can we talk about the ice cubes? They're in his red wine, and it's like a really full glass with lots of small ice cubes. It almost looks like a glass of cranberry juice, which I think would actually be a better pairing with flaccid orange pepperoni.
Yeah, this has officially ruined chilled red wine for me.
But hey, you know what? I don't judge. If this guy likes deep throating bad orange pepperoni and washing it down with a red wine granita, good for him.
Yeah, that's right. I think good for pepperoni guy. I think I support this man.
But I think we also need to support these sassy commenters because they are hilarious. Maybe not all these comments are entirely appropriate for us to read on air, but yeah, check
Yeah,
it out,
so
guys.
listeners, here's our PSA. If you need a break today, just find the pepperoni guy that's at Charles Loescher, Loescher on Instagram, and watch the video and read the comments because I guarantee you, after you watch this, you will feel better about your dietary choices.
I don't know. This may be having the opposite effect on me. I am now more likely to drink red wine over crushed ice and throw back a few dozen pepperoni slices, I think.
Ew, I can't.
Mm-mm. Flaccid pepperoni. Criminals cashed in on counterfeit wine. Hip hip hooray! Napa's got a new AVA. What's going on at Moet Hennessy Louis Vuitton? And in the name of Come Over October, we get to know the gal behind Chardonngay. These are the wine news stories we're following this week on your go-to wine news podcast, The Four Top. I am your host, Catherine Cole, here with Ruby Welkovich and Nick Toole.
You guys know what I said to myself recently while I was looking around my cellar at my Krug, my Moet and Chandon, my Dom Perignon?
You have a cellar?
I'm pretty sure you said you live on the third floor of an apartment building, so this is new.
So I said to myself, Nick, you should really check on your LVMH stock, see how those titans of industry are doing. So I got on my phone and I quickly checked LVMH's stock price. And when you know it, it had tanked by 8%. 8%. I'm financially destitute.
Yeah, okay, none of this is true.
Well, almost none of it. But it is true that LVMH, or Moet Hennessy Louis Vuitton, it's backwards, isn't it?
It is.
LVMH.
I like double checked that and I was like, this doesn't make sense.
Interesting. Is one of the world's most valuable companies, and it owns all of those wine brands that you just mentioned, Nick, as well as Givenchy, Christian Dior, Fendi, and many more luxury brands. And it is not doing terribly well right now.
Ain't that the truth? LVMH's stock price did indeed drop 8% last Tuesday to its lowest point in over a year. That was driven by a 5% dip in its fashion and leather goods product category, which hasn't seen a decline since the pandemic. But the real story here is about its Moet Hennessy division.
Oh, yeah. It's not those extremely expensive handbags. Moet Hennessy, home to all of LVMH's alcohol brands, is its worst performing business. It's on 8% drop in sales in the past 9 months, mostly in the United States and China.
This may be the reason why both Bloomberg and the French newspaper La Lettre reported last week that Philippe Chaus, the head of Moet Hennessy, was on his way out. La Lettre.
Keep it in.
The
Keep it
letter.
in.
It's just the letter. Claims that he is being swapped out for Laurent Boileau, currently the president of Hennessy, the cognac. And it's confusing because Moet Hennessy Louis Vuitton has a division named Moet Hennessy, and within that division is a company called Hennessy. So the CEO of Moet Hennessy is being replaced by the president of Hennessy.
This is like one of those SAT math word problems. And I
Hmm.
think you're making it worse, Nick. But to add to the confusion, LVMH is being a bit tight lipped about things and released a statement saying it was surprised by inaccurate rumors about its Moet Hennessy division. So they're kind of acting like none of this is happening.
But it's probably happening. LVMH's chairman and CEO Bernard Arnault, one of the richest men in the world, has been shaking things up recently in his business.
Yeah, who knows? But bottom line is, hey, as we all know, the wine industry is in a downturn, and LVMH's performance is probably an indicator of how the rest of the luxury wine sector is doing. So we can expect high end wineries to be cutting their costs and maybe even cutting their prices in the next year. But you know what? I still have confidence.
So maybe things will turn around. I don't need to sell my LVMH stock or hoard my Krug.
You don't have either of those things, Nick. If there's one thing the wine industry really delivers on, it's international crime.
Oh, yes, we love these stories on the Four Top. I think my favorite might have been back in January when liquid cocaine was found hidden in boxes of bagged wine in Hong Kong. What do we have going on this time, Ruby?
That was a good one, but this time, according to Ali Watkins of the New York Times, 6 people were recently arrested by Europol, the Inter European Police Force, for manufacturing wine in Italy, labeling it as high end Grand Cru vintages of French wine, smuggling it around the world, and selling it to wine merchants who were none the wiser.
And raking in as much as 15,000 euros per bottle. French prosecutors report that the fraudsters brought in about 2 million euros total. These guys have been pulling off this scheme for well more than a decade. The first of this crime ring's fake French labels was found back in 2014. At that time, a Russian and 2 Italians were arrested.
But that was not the end of it. Investigators started noticing the bottles popping up again in 2019 in Italy and Switzerland. And then 5 years later, they now have 6 more people in custody, including another Russian and a French national.
That is, truly international partnership right there.
The authorities also seized a bunch of the wine labels, wax products, machines used to fill and cork bottles, and over 100,000 euros in cash.
I thought the luxury wine market was bottoming out. I mean, who is paying 15,000 euros for these fake wines? But anyway, the New York Times article suggests that the uptick in online wine sales in the past decade has made it easier to buy and sell fake wine. Of course, an increasing number of wineries are using authentication services and NFTs these days to track their releases and avoid wine forgery. But this is, moving forward in the future, and it doesn't help with purported older vintages of wines.
I have to read this quote in the article from Rebecca Gibb, a master of wine and journalist who writes about wine fraud. The people who are the victims of these crimes are generally middle to upper class white males. I think people struggle to be sympathetic to the victims of fraud who have got this sort of money to drop on a bottle of wine.
Oh yeah, Rebecca is great. She used to be my editor back in the day, and she definitely calls it like she sees it. But Nick, I'm sorry that these middle to upper class white males are not getting much sympathy. And I know that you have that vault of Krug in your apartment.
Yeah, I know this is a huge bummer because A, some of that could be counterfeit, and B, I feel like I'm not getting the attention I deserve. But anyway. No, these guys are not getting much sympathy from me. I am a white guy, but I don't have very much money. And I feel a lot worse for the vineyards. A lot of work goes into that wine, and then you have someone drink some fake swill thinking it's your product. That is a bummer.
Listen, I think we all just need to start making wine in our basements to make sure that we can keep track of the quality and authenticity. I'm going to go get some grapes from the store and give it a go.
I'm sure that'll be delicious. So, guys, I know you're tired of my jet setting ways, but I do have a new place to travel to.
Oh, yay.
Do you think maybe this time you could take us with you?
Maybe we'll discuss during your annual performance review. But anyway, for the first time in 13 years, Napa Valley has a new subregion.
You don't mean a new American viticultural area?
Why, yes, I do. A new AVA. Welcome to the family, Crystal Springs. This is Napa Valley AVA number 17. So, Ruby, why don't you tell us about it?
So, Crystal Springs is nestled between St. Helena, Calistoga, and Howell Mountain. It is about 230 acres large and is made up mostly of vineyards, but it is also home to wineries such as Bremer and Viader.
This is good news for Crystal Springs wineries because up until now, they have had to label their wines as being from the Napa Valley AVA, which is huge and diverse. So now consumers will have a better idea of what to expect from the wines made in this region.
Yeah, and Steve Burgess, formerly of Burgess Cellars, was the driving force behind this new AVA. He submitted it for approval back in 2020, but he says he's been working on it since 2005. And looking at a map, I'm actually surprised that this was not an official appellation previously. It's nestled between the Howell Mountain, St. Helena, and Calistoga growing areas, so that's prime real estate.
Interesting side note about Crystal Springs, it was in this new AVA that the glass fire of 2020 began. So I guess what we're seeing is the beginning of its redemption arc, its comeback.
Okay, Catherine, why is this new AVA important? Talk to me about it like I'm a zillennial who knows nothing about wine.
Well, as Nick noted, it does provide clarity to consumers and it allows wineries the opportunity to educate enthusiasts on what makes their region special and unique, which in turn could in the future allow them to, form a regional trade organization or possibly even charge more for their wine. So these are all good things for these growers. And on a personal note, I have to say I have been to Villa Dare and it is beautiful up there. It's on the slope of Howell Mountain with gorgeous views of the Bell Canyon Reservoir. I just love this part of the valley because it's a little sleepier and quieter, a little less touristy. So, a really lovely place to visit.
So it sounds like the Four Top crew is going to take a field trip to Crystal Springs soon. Do some research into this new AVA, maybe?
Yeah, we just need a patron to bankroll it. Maybe Bernard Arnault of LVMH wants to be our podcast sponsor. Nick,
Ooh,
you know him. Just give him a call.
Yeah. We like to sip old Krug vintages.
yeah, just call Bernard up. Hey, folks, Come Over October isn't over yet.
It sure isn't. I've been going over and having people come over, and we've been drinking lots of wine, and it's been great.
Oh, that is great. I mean, I've been over in Europe this month, but I did start out strong and I still have time. And, who says wine socialization just has to happen in October? And hey, Ruby, you know someone in Brooklyn who really applies the come over October ethos year round, don't you?
I sure do. I'm so excited for our Phone a Friend segment this week because I have been going to these really fun gatherings called Chardonngay.
I mean, the title alone sounds fun.
It's a lot of fun. The events are really enjoyable, and it's just been such a great community that I found here in Brooklyn. And so I asked the founder, Megan Utter, to join us. So let's give her a call.
Beep boop 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 beep boop boop.
Okay, well, hello everyone. I'm really excited to introduce Megan, who I met a few months ago now, I guess. I think it was in
Yeah.
July at one of her Chardonnay events. And before we start, I just want to say that I went into this event. My friend had invited me and ended up not being able to go. So I went alone. And I was super nervous because I never go to events like this, especially not alone. And it was just such a wonderful environment of queer people, queer women. I just had such a blast, and I'm really excited to talk to Megan today. So, Megan, could you please introduce yourself and tell us about how you came up with Chardonnay?
Of course. I just like to say I was very glad that you came, even under the circumstances. I was happy you were there. Yes. Hi, I'm Megan Utter. I am originally from Chicago, but I now live in Brooklyn, New York. And I started a queer wine club called Chardonngay just over a year ago. We had our 1 year birthday, September 18th. So I've been doing this for about a year. Outside of queer wine, I am an event marketing manager. So it's kind of the best of both worlds for me. I started Chardonnay after moving to New York and not knowing many peoples and wanting to be intentional about creating queer community for myself. And the idea just happened upon me one day when I was walking past one of the many Brooklyn wine bars and thinking about how I'd love to just go in and sit with a few friends and enjoy a nice glass of natural wine while meeting new folks. So that's kind of how it came to be.
Awesome. So we recently spoke with Kara McNeil and Kimberly Charles, who are two folks behind, I guess you could say, national effort to build community around wine. And whether it's family or friends, just sharing a glass of wine and having community, sort of in light of the fact that community might be a tough thing to come by these days or at present moment. And so, how do you feel Chardonnay has played a role in building queer community or just community in general?
It's a great question. I have been thinking about this because my circumstances were just being new in a city, but I think living in a post pandemic world, that idea of a third space is honestly critical for most people. I think a lot of people work from home or are more homebodied than before and kind of are seeking that other space that they can just exist in. That can range from a lot of different things. It could be a movie theater or a library or whatever it might be, but for me, I've always felt very comfortable and excited to be in wine bars. It's kind of like a open invite to a table where you can sit around and meet new people. Also, in a post pandemic world, people are eager to learn new things, but the wine industry is kind of hard to approach for people who
Yes.
don't know anything about wine.
Mhm.
And I wanted to make it approachable so that people who don't know much about it can still partake. Here in Brooklyn, having many wine bars accessible to us, it became my third space. And I figured there'd be other people who would want to partake in that as well. As Ruby mentioned, like even not having someone to go with to a Chardonnay event, you were able to, go and have a good time. And that's all that I care about and what drives me with Chardonnay.
I love this, Megan. This just sounds fantastic. I want to go to one of these events, but I'm coming at you from Willamette Valley Chardonnay country, so I have to ask.
Oh yes.
You drink things other than Chardonnay, right? Is it just the title?
Yes.
So what is the most popular wine style when y'all get together?
Oh, that's tough. Coming out of the summer, I mean, rosé and orange wine was just the
Mhm.
go-to. Depending on the bar that hosts us, we either have a few offerings for the group or people just can order what they want. I was like, just have a rosé and an orange wine available because that is what people are going to. And I'm trying to, I think as we shift seasons, that might change, but it's not just Chardonnay. I'm actually controversially not a Chardonnay fan. But I
No.
know, I
Yay!
know. But it did inspire the name.
Well, as the author of Rosé All Day, if next summer you wanna say Rosé All Gay, I am going to let you do that.
Oh my God, I love that. That we could make
That
some
could be a
merch with
really
that.
fun, yeah, we could do some collaborative merch there.
Oh, all
Yes.
right. And so I take it people are coming.
Yes. Yeah. They're coming and
There
it's
are wait lists, if I am correct.
yeah. After month 3 of our events, we had to start kind of limiting the attendance just due to the nature of wine bars. They're smaller and more intimate spaces. And so I typically lean at like 40 people, but there's other spaces we've done like up to 60 or 70 people. It just depends
Wow.
on, yeah, capacity limits and things.
So, any thoughts about expanding to other towns, other cities?
Oh, yes. We actually already have a location in Vermont. There's someone there that kind of splits their time between Vermont and New York and had never been able to make a New York event and asked if they could start their own chapter.
Super cool.
So I think they've done one event so far. And then we have someone in London actually who was New York Chardonngay, relocated to London and is going to be starting up a chapter there. So I am open to anywhere. If anyone wants to take that on, I have materials to send them and branding that they can use. But I want it to expand to wherever the community is. So it's been kind of exciting just to grow outside of the New York bubble.
Very cool.
That's super cool. I was in LA and I don't know if you've heard of the Ruby Fruit, but I think it's like a queer women owned wine bar. And so I love
Yes.
that that's just like a thing that's happening these days. It's like such a cool concept.
Yeah, it's on my list. I have not
Yeah.
made it out to LA yet, but I've been following them and something I've been reflecting on is in the queer community there are, I mean, already a limited amount of queer bars, and majority of those are either clubs or like going out spaces. And so from what I've heard and my personal thoughts are I don't like necessarily go clubbing every weekend and I'd rather sit in a more intimate spot. And so what I've heard from people that come to Chardonnay is when they want to find friends or new community, it's really hard to do so in a loud like club atmosphere and
Mhm.
that take on like a wine bar is kind of new where we can be like okay let's take over a space where it's easier to connect and see what happens from there.
So cool.
Well, thank you so much, Megan. I am so excited about Chardonnay and spreading the word and seeing it grow to other cities. And thanks for your good work.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm just excited whenever I get the chance to talk about it and the more people that know about it is just the better. So thank you so much for having me today. It was great
Yeah,
talking
thank you
with
so
you
much.
all.
Question of the week time. We recently asked our social media fam if they would pay $120 for a bottle of non alcoholic bubbly.
Yeah, this was after we reported that members of the Chardonnay family had started a non alcoholic wine brand, and their premium offering is $120 a bottle. Wowzers.
The results were unsurprising. Out of 24 comments, 22 were some form of no. So that's 1 second. Beep, boop, 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 boop. 91.6%.
There were some very emphatic no's, including from Vino Papi, who says, absolutely, and I cannot articulate this further, not.
At M. McClannon says only on the 30th of February. So I think that means no.
Fernandino Wine Guy implores us all just to buy a Pepsi instead. And Damn It Hamlet says that we could just buy grape juice and seltzer and mix them together for like $5.
That makes sense. We did get 2 yeses, and that accounts for, according to Nick, 8.4% of our responses. One is from the user, a non-alc wine shop. So I guess that makes sense that they are in favor of a really expensive non-alcoholic wine. And user Jim B. McClure says, if I tasted it first and deemed it worth $120. I guess that's fair enough.
I guess so. Well, based on our very unscientific poll, the people are not ready to spend that much money on a bottle of non alcoholic bubbly, or at least not our listeners.
All right, so what shall we ask our listeners next?
Oh, I've got one. I am intrigued by these sophisticated wine forgery operations. So, like asking for a friend if I needed to make, a few million bucks on the side, how could I resell two buck chuck for, 15,000 euros per bottle?
Okay, listeners, we pose this question to you then. What is the perfect wine scam and how would you pull it off? Asking for a friend. All right, it is time for our dessert course, and we have our fearless jet-setting leader, Catherine, with with a rundown of some wonderful things she experienced in France. Is that true?
Yeah, I was just in Paris and I'll just really quickly share a couple of recommendations. I don't know if folks remember, we talked about this ice cream shop Folderol on the podcast, and I did go there after dinner one night. Unfortunately, they were getting ready to close, so I wasn't able to taste any ice cream or wine. I was so sad. But I did go ahead and break all the rules. You'll have to go back and listen to that episode to figure out why I was breaking the rules, and took a picture there. And it is very charming, and it's a charming neighborhood I believe it's in the 11th arrondissement. And where we had dinner before then was really, really fantastic. It's a restaurant called Ventre, Vantre. And wine lovers, I would highly recommend going there. It's small and charming, busy, but the wine list is fantastic. And I kind of did this thing that I like to do, which is, when you've got a really long wine list and you're just like overwhelmed because everything looks amazing, just say to the Somm, what would you take home tonight and, share with your loved one or just drink on your own? And so the Somm pointed us toward a couple of, affordable, but just really delicious bottles. So that was superb. And then also we did one really fancy over-the-top meal at David Toutain, and that's Toutain. One of those meals that starts at 8 and finishes at like past midnight. And
Wow.
I like 20 something courses. They were all beautiful. The pairings were really interesting. So definitely check out David Toutain if you're a big foodie. It's a lot of fun. So that's my final recommendation from Paris.
I have never been to Paris, and I think it's the top of my list, so I'm going to jot those down, and I'm super excited for when I do go.
Yes, I was in Paris this summer and I did not get a chance to go to that ice cream wine place, and it was a bummer. So I guess we'll have to go back.
I know, we all need to go back and take pictures of ourselves, even though you're not supposed to do that.
Yeah, no, I will not be doing that.
Not a rule breaker.
This has been the Four Top Podcast. I am our executive producer, Catherine Cole.
I'm our producer, Nick Toole.
And I'm media and design manager, Ruby Welkovich.
Keelan King is the composer and performer of our theme music. And please visit our website, thefourtop.org, to learn more about us and listen to back episodes.
If you have not already subscribed to The Four Top on iTunes or Spotify, please do so, and please leave us a rating.
Hey y'all, this is important. Every rating feeds the algorithm and helps new listeners find the Four Top.
Well, busy plotting my life of wine crime, this is Catherine signing out.
En route to Crystal Springs, this is Nick signing out.
And from a glass filled with red wine and pebble ice in Brooklyn, this is Ruby signing out. Stay safe out there, and thanks for listening.
And stay away from flaccid pepperoni. Giving that term
I feel
of the
like
week.
you love saying that.
You're like a 12-year-old boy.
It's so bad the way it flopped around in his hand.